In most movies, prison is a non-stop explosion of chaos. You see huge brawls in the cafeteria every single day, improvised weapons around every corner, and guards who are either cartoonishly evil or completely absent. It makes for great cinema, but if you actually had to step inside those walls for a life sentence, would it really look like a Hollywood set? Is every trip to the shower a high-stakes gamble, or is the reality of prison life something far more subtle, in some ways even more chilling? We are going to explore the hidden codes of conduct that keep the peace, the psychological pressure that replaces physical fighting, and the terrifying reality of what actually happens when things go wrong. If you think you know what prison is like from watching Netflix or the big screen, prepare to have your perspective completely shifted. Let's get into the real world inside the wire. The first thing to understand is that constant, high-level physical conflict is actually the enemy of a functioning prison. If a facility is in a state of total war every day, nobody gets what they want. The inmates can't get their commissary, the guards can't go home on time, and the administration loses their budget. Because of this, a very complex, unwritten set of rules exists to prevent the kind of random outbursts you see in movies. In a real prison, most people are actually trying to stay under the radar. They want to do their time, get their food, and maybe watch a little TV in the evening. The danger isn't usually random. It is calculated. It is about disrespect. And it is about broken promises. In a movie, someone might get attacked just for looking at someone the wrong way. In a real prison that might happen, but it is much more likely that you would be warned first. There is a protocol to the tension. Let's talk about the concept of the yard. In movies, the yard is where the big showdowns happen. In reality, the yard is a place of intense observation. When you walk out into that open space, you are being watched by hundreds of pairs of eyes. Inmates are watching to see who you talk to, how you walk, and if you follow the unwritten rules of where to stand. The guards are watching from the towers and the ground, looking for shifts in the atmosphere. Dangerous situations often start with silence, not shouting. When a yard suddenly goes quiet, or when people start moving away from a certain area, that is when the real danger is peaking. Most experienced inmates can feel a change in the air pressure, figuratively speaking, hours before anything actually happens. It is a psychological game of chess, where everyone is trying to predict the next move. One of the biggest differences between movies and reality is the role of the staff. Hollywood loves the trope of the guard who lets things happen for fun. While there are certainly bad apples in any system, most correctional officers are focused on one thing: maintaining the status quo so they can finish their shift safely. They use a system called dynamic security, which is basically just talking to people. They know who the influential inmates are. They know who is having a bad day because their family didn't call, and they try to de-escalate problems before they become physical. The real danger often comes from a lack of staff or a lack of experience. When a prison is understaffed, the internal balance shifts, and that is when the environment becomes unpredictable. Now, let's get into the most common form of danger in prison, which is nothing like the movies. It isn't a shank in the hallway. It is the crushing weight of health issues and environmental stress. When you are in a small, enclosed space with thousands of other people, germs travel fast. The medical care is basic, and the stress of always being on alert weakens the immune system. For someone serving life, the danger is that their body will simply wear out decades before it should. The air quality in many older prisons is poor, the food is high in sodium and low in nutrients, and the lack of sunlight takes a toll. This is a slow, quiet kind of danger that movies never show because it isn't exciting to watch someone struggle with a chronic cough for 10 years. But for a lifer, this is the threat that keeps them up at night. The psychological danger is also immense. In movies, characters are often portrayed as being hardened or cool under pressure. In real life, the constant lack of privacy, the noise that never stops, and the inability to ever truly relax leads to a state of hypervigilance. Imagine living in a world where you can never lock your own door from the inside. Imagine never being able to have a conversation that isn't potentially being overheard. This erodes the human psyche. It creates a sense of paranoia that can lead people to react aggressively to things that wouldn't even register in the outside world. A bumped shoulder in a crowded hallway can be interpreted as a test of strength. If you don't react, you are perceived as weak. If you do react, you risk disciplinary action or escalating the conflict. This catch-22 is the daily reality of prison safety. What about the weapons? Movies make it seem like every inmate has a collection of sharpened toothbrushes. While improvised tools do exist, the reality of contraband is much more mundane. Most of the time, the things that get people in trouble are cell phones, tobacco, or extra food. However, the presence of these items creates its own kind of danger. It creates a black market. And wherever there is a black market, there is debt. Debt is the #1 cause of physical conflict in prison. If you can't pay back what you owe in commissary or favors, that is when the situation becomes critical. In a world where you have no legal way to settle a dispute, people resort to the only currency they have left, which is physical force. The socialization process is another area where movies get it wrong. They often show people joining groups immediately for protection. Modern prisons often use a strategy called integrations or specialized housing to break up these power structures. In many cases, joining a high-profile group actually makes you a bigger target for both the staff and other groups. Many lifers find that the safest way to survive is to be a loner who is respectful to everyone but close to no one. They call it staying in your lane. If you don't gamble, you don't use prohibited substances, and you don't get involved in other people's business, your danger level drops significantly. But staying in your lane is lonely. And for a human being, the danger of total isolation is its own kind of horror. Let's discuss the physical layout of a prison. Movies love the old-school look with tiers of cells and open bars. Most modern maximum security prisons are podular. This means small groups of cells open into a common day room. This design is intended to give guards better sightlines and to keep groups of inmates smaller. While this is safer in terms of preventing large-scale riots, it creates a much more intense environment. You are in a small room with the same 30 people all day, every day. If you have a conflict with one of them, there is nowhere to go. The tension in these pods can become so thick you can practically feel it. It is like being trapped in an elevator with someone you dislike, but the elevator never reaches the lobby. The danger level also varies wildly depending on the security level of the facility. A medium security prison can actually be more volatile than a maximum security one. In max, everyone knows the stakes. The sentences are long, and the consequences for trouble are extreme. People there have often settled into a routine. In medium, you have people who are closer to going home. They are restless, they are younger, and they often have more to prove. This creates a restless, twitchy energy. In many ways, the professional atmosphere of a high-security unit is safer for a lifer than the chaotic energy of a lower-level yard, where people are just passing through. Another thing movies ignore is the concept of the count. Multiple times a day, everything stops. Every inmate must be in a specific spot to be counted. This is the heartbeat of the prison. If the count is off, the entire facility goes into lockdown. This constant, rigid structure is a double-edged sword. It prevents people from disappearing or getting into too much trouble for long periods. But it also reinforces the feeling of being a caged animal. The danger here is the loss of the soul. When every second of your day is accounted for by a stranger with a clipboard, you start to lose the sense of being a person. You become a data point. Let's talk about the visiting room. In movies, this is often where the plot moves forward. In reality, the visiting room is one of the most stressful places in the prison. It is a place of forced happiness. You haven't seen your family in months, but you only have 2 hours. You want to tell them you love them, but you also have to make sure you don't say anything that would worry them. You have to stay seated. You can't move around, and you are being watched by cameras and guards. When the visit ends, the emotional drop is devastating. It is the risk of total emotional collapse. Many lifers describe the walk back to their cell after a visit as the longest walk of their lives. It is a reminder of everything they are losing, minute by minute. The dining hall is another cinematic favorite for action scenes. In real life, the chow hall is an exercise in efficiency and tension. You have hundreds of people who are often frustrated and hungry, sitting in close quarters. The staff is on high alert. The noise is incredible. You eat as fast as you can because you only have about 10 to 15 minutes. Most people just stare at their trays and try to get out as quickly as possible. The danger in the chow hall is mostly about the unspoken rules. If you sit at the wrong table, or if you accidentally spill something on the wrong person, it can spark a conflict. But again, most people are just trying to get through the meal without incident. We have to mention the whole or solitary confinement. Movies portray it as a dark dungeon. Modern restrictive housing is often a brightly lit, sterile room with a solid steel door. The danger here is the sensory deprivation, without human touch, without conversation, and without anything to look at besides a white wall. The human brain begins to malfunction. People start talking to themselves. They develop sleep disorders, and they lose track of time. This is a form of danger that leaves no physical marks but can ruin a person's mind forever. For a lifer, the threat of being sent to the hole is the ultimate deterrent, because they know that their sanity is the only thing they have left to lose. The role of technology in prison safety is also changing the game. Many facilities now use cameras that cover almost every square inch of the common areas. Some have wristbands that track inmate movement. While this makes physical violence easier to catch and prosecute, it has pushed the conflict into the shadows. People find ways to settle scores in the few places the cameras don't reach. Or they use more subtle forms of retaliation, like getting someone's property lost, or spreading rumors that will get them in trouble with the administration. The danger has become more administrative and less physical, but no less life-altering. One thing movies rarely show is the boredom. The boredom of prison is a danger in itself. When you have nothing to do and nowhere to go for 20 years, your mind becomes a dangerous place. People develop obsessive habits. They dwell on the past until it becomes a distorted reality, or they turn to prohibited substances to numb the monotony, reading every book in the library, or becoming a legal expert. If you don't find a way to occupy your mind, the boredom will consume you. It is a slow, grinding force that wears people down until they are just shells of who they used to be. Let's look at the concept of protection. In movies, a new inmate might pay an older inmate for safety. In reality, protection is a very dangerous game. If you ask for help, you now owe a debt. And in prison, debts are always collected. The safest way to be protected is to be a person of value. If you can fix things, if you can write well, or if you are a good cook, people have a reason to keep you around and keep you safe. Your skill is your shield. This is why lifers often become the mechanics, the tutors, or the clerks. They make themselves indispensable to the functioning of the unit. The danger of the bus is another thing movies don't tell you about. Involuntary transfers happen all the time. One day you have a job, a routine, and a few people you trust. The next day, you are woken up at 4 a.m., put in chains, and driven to a prison 500 miles away where you know one. You have to start your entire social life from zero. For a lifer, this is a major security risk. You have to prove yourself all over again. You have to learn the new rules of a new yard. This transient nature of prison life means that you can never truly feel safe, because your entire world can be deleted and reset without a moment's notice. Let's talk about the noise. People on the outside don't realize how loud a prison is. It is a constant cacophony of shouting, metal doors slamming, toilets flushing, and the hum of electronics. This noise level is a documented health hazard. It causes sleep deprivation, high blood pressure, and chronic irritability. In many ways, the noise is more dangerous to a person's long-term health than the occasional physical fight. It keeps everyone in a state of agitation. It makes it impossible to think clearly. It is a form of environmental torture that movies can never truly replicate, because they have to use music and dialogue. The danger of the lifestyle inside is also about the lack of autonomy. You have no control over who your cellmate is. You could be paired with someone who is peaceful, or you could be paired with someone who is going through a mental health crisis. You are locked in a room the size of a bathroom with this person for 12 to 16 hours a day. The danger here is the constant forced intimacy. Small annoyances, like the way someone breathes or eats, can escalate into major conflicts after a few months. Most celly violence isn't about grand plots. It is about the accumulation of tiny frustrations that finally boil over. So, back to the original question. Is prison as dangerous as the movies? The answer is a complicated yes and no. It is less dangerous in the way movies portray it, which is random, spectacular violence. But it is much more dangerous in the ways movies ignore. It is a danger to the physical body through neglect and stress. It is a danger to the mind through boredom and sensory deprivation. And it is a danger to the soul through the total removal of humanity and agency. In a movie, the danger is a plot point that the hero overcomes with courage or strength. In a real-life sentence, The danger is something you have to navigate every single second of every single day for decades. It is a test of character that never ends. You don't win against the danger of prison. You simply survive it. Or you don't. The real danger is that you will wake up one day, 30 years later, and realize you don't remember the color of your mother's eyes or the feeling of walking on grass. There is also the danger of the release, if it ever comes. For a lifer, the outside world is a different kind of threat. Many are released into a world they don't recognize, with no money, no family left, and no skills that translate to the modern economy. The danger of failing on the outside and ending up back inside is a constant shadow. This leads to a tragic cycle where the prison becomes the only place where they know how to survive. The cage has literally reshaped their brain to fit its dimensions. If we look at the statistics, physical violence in prisons has actually seen shifts over the years, as management techniques have become more sophisticated. However, incidents still happen, and when they do, they are often devastating, because the medical response is delayed by security protocols. A minor injury that would be easily treated on the street can become life-altering in a facility where every door must be unlocked by a different person. This logistical danger is a constant background reality. The role of the older heads or the veteran lifers is crucial here. They are often the ones who keep the peace. They have seen the riots of the past, and they don't want to go through that again. They mentor the younger, more volatile inmates, explaining that a lockdown means no one gets to use the phone or buy their favorite soup. This unofficial governance by the lifers is what keeps most modern prisons from descending into the movie-style chaos we are used to seeing. They are the stabilizing force in a world designed for instability. We also have to consider the danger to the staff. Correctional officers have one of the highest rates of post-traumatic stress in any profession. They are living in the same environment as the inmates, just on the other side of the keys. The danger of being caught in the middle of a conflict, or of simply being worn down by the atmosphere of misery, is a heavy burden. This stress often leads to a tough exterior that can be perceived as cruelty, but it is often just a survival mechanism. This creates a feedback loop of tension between the staff and the inmates that defines the daily experience. One of the most profound dangers is the loss of the future. In the outside world, danger is usually something that threatens your life. In prison, the danger is that your life will continue, but it will have no meaning. This existential danger is the core of the lifer's experience. You are alive, but you are not living. You are breathing, but you are not participating in the human story. This is the truth that movies can't show because it happens in the quiet moments, in the middle of the night, when there is no music and no one is watching. The environmental conditions, especially in older state prisons, are a major factor. Some units have no climate control whatsoever. The concrete walls store the heat and release it all night long. The temperature in the cells can reach over 100 degrees. This is a very real danger to health, especially for older inmates. In movies, the environment is just a backdrop. In real life, the environment is an active participant in your punishment, grinding pressure that tests the limits of human endurance. We should also talk about the culture of silence. In movies, someone might snitch to get a better deal. In a real maximum security prison, the no snitching rule is the foundation of the social contract. If someone is caught reporting on others, the danger level for that person goes to the maximum level instantly. This creates an environment where things are settled internally. While this keeps the administration out of people's business, it also means that victims of internal conflicts have very little recourse. This lack of a formal justice system inside the walls is a major source of danger for anyone who isn't strong enough or connected enough to protect themselves. So is it dangerous? Absolutely. But it is a different kind of danger. It is the danger of being forgotten. It is the danger of becoming a number. It is the danger of watching your life drain away like water into sand. Hollywood focuses on the sharp, sudden pain of a confrontation. The reality is the dull, aching pain of 20 years of nothingness. The real danger of prison is that it works exactly as intended. It removes a person from society and locks them in a stasis where they age without growing. If you are a lifer, you spend your time between these two types of danger. You navigate the physical threats by being smart, respectful, and observant. But you also have to navigate the spiritual threats by finding a way to keep your mind alive. You read, you write, you study, you pray. You do whatever you have to do to remind yourself that you are still a human being. The movies are about what happens to the body. The real story of prison is what happens to the soul. Think about the last time you felt truly safe. You were likely at home. The doors were locked by you, and you were surrounded by people who cared about you. In prison, that feeling of safety is permanently deleted. Even when you are sleeping, your brain is listening. Every noise is a potential threat. Every person is a potential conflict. This constant lack of safety is what truly defines the experience. It is an exhausting way to live, and after 20 or 30 years, it changes the way you view the entire world. The truth is that prison is a place of incredible boredom, punctuated by moments of extreme tension. It isn't a non-stop action movie, but it isn't a safe haven either. It is a world of its own, with its own gravity, its own atmosphere, and its own dangers. Understanding the difference between the cinematic version and the reality helps us realize the true weight of a life sentence. It isn't just about losing your freedom. It's about being plunged into an environment where your very humanity is under constant, subtle attack. Thank you for exploring this with us. It is easy to look at prison as a distant, abstract concept, but it is a real place inhabited by real people facing challenges most of us can barely imagine. When we strip away the Hollywood glamour and the sensationalism, we are left with a much more sobering picture. It is a picture of endurance, of loss, and of the complicated nature of justice. Stay empathetic, and remember that there is always more to the story than what you see on the screen. The conversation around prison safety and conditions is an important part of our society. By looking at the reality rather than the fiction, we can have a more honest discussion about what we expect from our justice system. Is the goal purely to punish through environmental and psychological stress, or is there a way to maintain security while preserving the basic dignity of the human person? These are the questions that arise when we look closely at the life behind the wire. Until next time, keep seeking the truth behind the headlines. Every life has a story, even those that are told in the quiet halls of a maximum security prison. Let's keep listening to those stories and learning from them. Take care of yourselves and stay curious about the world, because the more we know, the better we can make the future for everyone. There is still so much to discover about the hidden parts of our world.